My family cut me out of Grandma's will but didn't know I bought the house they all wanted and evicted them after exposing their lies, forgery, and years of elder abuse. I found out I was cut out of Grandma's will the day after her funeral. And the way I found out, my cousin Jenny laughing about it on Facebook. Can't believe she actually did it. Guess blood isn't always thicker than a Prada purse. That post had over 30 likes from people I once called family. I stared at it for a full minute, waiting for the numbness to turn into something, anything. It didn't. Not right away. Let me back up. My name's Ellie. I'm 35 now, but this all started back when I was 32. Grandma Rose was the only person in my family who treated me like I mattered. She raised me more than my parents ever did. My mom, her daughter, was too wrapped up in her wine bottles and abusive boyfriends to notice me growing up. My dad left before I turned 10. Grandma was home. She made pancakes on school mornings. She stayed up with me when I had nightmares. She came to every choir recital. She was my world. When her health started to decline, I didn't hesitate. I left my job in Chicago and moved back to the small Georgia town where I grew up. I didn't ask anyone for help. I used my own savings to renovate her downstairs bathroom so she wouldn't have to climb stairs. I bought her meds when Medicare didn't cover them. I cooked every damn meal and changed her sheets when she had accidents. And my family. They barely visited, maybe once every 2 months. When they did come around, it was always about what she'd leave behind. My Uncle Ron actually walked through the house once with a tape measure talking about how his son might expand the kitchen when he inherits. I brushed it off. Grandma noticed too. She once told me if I based my will on love, you'd get the whole damn town. But when she passed, everything went dark fast. The funeral was quiet. No speeches. No real emotion. Just fake tears and whispered gossip. I stood by her casket and kept waiting for the weight of grief to drop on me like a truck. But it didn't. Not yet. Then came the reading of the will. I wasn't invited. It was held at Ron's house. My Aunt Carol messaged me saying, "Sorry, honey. It's just for immediate family." I almost laughed. I was the one who took care of her. I was the one who spent 3 years wiping drool off her chin and holding her hand during seizures. They were immediate by blood, but I was the one by her side when she took her last breath. Still, I tried to be the bigger person. I waited. 2 days later, silence. No one called. No one texted. Until that Facebook post from Jenny. That's when the silence cracked, and something inside me snapped. I called Carol, trying to stay calm. "Hi, can I ask what happened with the will?" She paused too long. "Well, Ellie, it's complicated. Rose, she made some last-minute changes. She wanted to be fair." "Fair?" My voice trembled. She didn't want to start fights, so she split the house and accounts among her kids and grandkids. And me. Another long pause. "She felt you already got your share by living with her rent-free for 3 years. I nearly dropped the phone. I was shaking. Rent-free. Is that what they told themselves? "Ellie, we don't want this to come between us." She loved you, but I hung up. My hands were ice cold and I couldn't stop crying. Not because of the money. I didn't care about the damn money. I cared about the lie. The betrayal. A week later, they put the house on the market. Grandma's house. My house. They didn't even clean it properly. I drove by one morning and saw a for sale sign and a broker's car out front. Through the window, I saw Jenny walking a realtor through the living room. She was pointing at the old fireplace I helped refinish, smiling like she knew anything about the history behind it. That was the moment I stopped crying. That was the moment I started planning. I didn't scream, I didn't beg, I didn't threaten anyone. Instead, I opened my laptop, poured myself a coffee, and said aloud to the empty room, "Let's see how fair really feels." I called a realtor the next day, not the one selling Grandma's house. God, no. I went with an old friend from high school, Darlene, who had stayed in town and built up her own real estate agency. She was sharp, discreet, and most importantly, she remembered what my family was like. When I told her what I wanted, she raised an eyebrow. "You sure, Ellie? That house has a lot of ghosts." "Exactly," I said. "I want them all." Grandma's house was being listed for $279,000. I had $85,000 left in savings from my tech job in Chicago, plus the 401k I'd cashed out when I moved back to care for her. I had good credit. I didn't even try to haggle. I offered full asking quietly through Darlene and asked her to keep my name off everything until closing. It took 2 weeks for the papers to go through. During that time, I avoided social media, blocked my family's numbers, and kept my head down. I didn't want anyone to know what I was doing. Especially not Ron, who bragged on Facebook Marketplace that he was finally unloading the old dump and planned to use the money for a new boat. Meanwhile, I was silently buying the old dump from under them. When the sale was finalized, Darlene called me with a soft laugh. "You got it. I almost couldn't breathe. I got the house. You own it, Ellie. It's yours." It was mine. After all that, they sold my grandmother's house without telling me, thinking they'd never see it again. And I bought it. Clean, quiet, legal. I didn't even step foot in the place for 3 more days. I wanted the perfect moment. It came when Jenny posted photos of one last family dinner in the house before the sale. There they all were, Ron, Carol, Jenny, even my mom, who couldn't be bothered to show up when Grandma was on oxygen. Sitting at the table I built, drinking wine next to the window I replaced. The caption read, "Goodbye, sweet home. You served us well." That's when I called Darlene and told her to serve them something else, a 72-hour notice to vacate. They had no clue. None of them had bothered to ask who the buyer was. They thought it was some out-of-state couple. They hadn't even met Darlene in person, just signed the sale paperwork remotely to get it over with. The arrogance. The day the notice went out, my phone exploded. Carol called 21 times. Ron left a voicemail screaming about legal threats and how dare you. Jenny sent a single text. "Are you insane?" I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I waited until the day of the eviction to show up in person. I parked across the street in a used Honda I'd bought under a new LLC I'd created. I wore sunglasses, a baseball cap, and a hoodie. I waited until the sheriff's deputy walked up the front steps to post the final notice before I stepped out of the car and crossed the street. Jenny was in the driveway, pale and frantic. You did this." I took off my glasses and looked her straight in the eye. "I did." Carol came stumbling out of the house, makeup smeared. "You bought it," she shrieked. "You stole this from us." I shook my head. "No, I bought what you gave away." Ron wasn't there. I heard later he'd gone fishing to avoid the confrontation. They didn't have time to argue. The notice was clear. They had 3 hours to get their stuff and leave. I had the legal paperwork in hand, notarized and approved. Carol kept yelling. Jenny cried. My mom didn't even come outside. When the moving truck arrived, it wasn't for them. It was mine. I watched them carry their things to their beat-up old SUV. Carol tried to take the vintage rocking chair from the porch. I stopped her. "That stays," I said. "It was Grandma's. I'm keeping it in the room where she died, where you never visited." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She just stood there gripping the chair until the deputy reminded her she was trespassing. By sunset, they were gone. The house was quiet again. I walked through each room slowly like I was touching memories. The scuffed hallway where Grandma kept her sewing kit. The spot in the kitchen where I used to sit cross-legged on the floor while she made cornbread. Her bedroom where the sheets still smelled faintly like lavender. I cried for the first time in weeks. Really cried. But it wasn't grief. It was something else grief that had transmuted into rage, then resolve, and finally release. But I wasn't done. Because after I bought the house, I did a little digging, and what I found made everything that happened look like child's play. I never imagined that buying the house was just the beginning. I thought I'd get my revenge, shut the door on the past, and start fresh. But Grandma's house had a way of whispering things to me, things I wasn't ready to hear until I started cleaning. It began in the attic. I found a rusted tin box tucked behind a beam, wrapped in old scarves. Inside were letters. Dozens of them, bundled by rubber bands and dated over several years. Most were from Grandma, written in the elegant, shaky script I remembered, but they weren't addressed to me. They were written to my mom. At first I thought they were just rambling apologies, maybe trying to reconnect, but the content made my stomach turn. "Please don't lie to her. She deserves the truth. You told her her father didn't care. I know you resented him, but she needs to know he sent money. I've kept records. Someday she'll see I did my best to protect her." I sat on the attic floor shaking. For my entire life, my mom told me my dad abandoned us, that he left and never looked back, never called, never sent a penny. She said he was a drunk and that I was better off without him. But Grandma's letters told a different story. Apparently, my father did send support checks, birthday cards, even letters, and my mom had intercepted all of it, cashed the money, burned the letters, lied to me for years. There was more. A folder inside the box held scanned copies of checks, many marked with my dad's name, and some amounts over $1,000. The most recent was dated only 2 years before Grandma died. I went numb. I took the folder and drove straight to the county clerk's office. I requested public records, birth certificates, property records, anything with signatures. My dad had never terminated parental rights. He'd even listed his address in Virginia on a few forms. It wasn't hard to track him down after that. He lived 3 states away, and he'd tried to reach me. 4 emails, 2 letters returned unopened, all dated from years ago. I didn't cry this time. I just sat in my car gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My entire life had been built on lies, and they used me. My mom, my uncle, my aunt, they all let me take care of Grandma while they quietly schemed. Then they cut me out and pretended it was fair. Worse, I found out they'd all been cashing in on Grandma's savings during those last few years. Not just passive withdrawals, deliberate manipulation. Ron had convinced her to co-sign a second mortgage under the guise of helping with medical bills. Carol had taken control of her checking account and lost over $30,000 in unexplained expenses. And my mom. She guilt-tripped Grandma into monthly rent for staying in her own damn house. Thousands gone. Gone before I even moved in to help. It was all there. On paper, in bank statements, emails, even in Grandma's own handwriting. I felt like my lungs couldn't expand fully. Like the world I lived in had cracked open and everything I trusted had fallen through. That's when Jess called. Jess is my younger cousin Carol's daughter. She's 24 and was always the quiet one. She stayed out of the family drama, kept to herself, and actually helped me clean up after the funeral. We weren't close growing up, but she was the only one who ever asked me, "Are you okay?" "Hey," she said. "I heard what happened. I just want to say, I know what they did, and if you need help, I'm here." At first, I didn't trust it. I didn't trust anyone. But she proved herself. She sent screenshots, group texts between the family mocking me for caring too much. She forwarded an email from Carol instructing her not to tell me about the will, and she offered to help me collect every scrap of evidence. So I did what I never thought I'd do. I hired a lawyer. His name was Mr. Talbot, old school, sharp as a knife, and not one to flinch at family cases. He reviewed the documents, the bank records, the forged signatures, and the co-signed mortgage paperwork. After 2 hours, he looked up and said, "You have them. I do. Every one of them. Financial, elder abuse, fraud, possibly identity theft. If you want to move forward, I'll file it. But I need to warn you, this won't be quiet." I stared at him. I thought about Grandma, about changing her bed sheets at 3 a.m., about the way she used to hold my hand when the pain got bad, about how they used her like an ATM, then left me to clean up the remains. I looked Mr. Talbot in the eye. "Make it loud." The first bomb dropped 2 weeks later. Ron was the first to find out. He called me screaming that his bank account had been frozen. Apparently, the second mortgage he tricked Grandma into signing had triggered a fraud investigation once my lawyer sent a subpoena to the lender. They flagged his signature against Grandma's verified records and found multiple inconsistencies. Now the loan was under review and his credit line was suspended. I didn't answer his calls. I watched the voicemail transcript scroll across my screen like a victory lap. Next was Carol. Her face turned up in the local paper. Small town, small secrets after Mr. Talbot filed an official civil suit citing financial elder abuse, coercion, and misappropriation of funds from a vulnerable adult. He made it airtight. Bank statements, copies of checks, handwritten notes from Grandma's journal, even a timeline of Carol's fake visits compared to ATM withdrawals. Jess, bless her, came through with even more. Photos of Carol buying new jewelry just weeks after Grandma fell. Venmo transactions labeled from Rose. Screenshots of her bragging about cleaning up the leftovers before I moved in. But the worst was my mom. It wasn't just about what she stole. It was what she destroyed. My relationship with my father, Mr. Talbot, helped me draft a letter to him, my dad, William, explaining everything. I expected silence, but he wrote back. A 3-page letter trembling with years of regret and apology. He said he tried so hard, that the letters returned to him broke his heart, that he thought I didn't want to know him, that he had only stopped trying when his last package came back with a sticky note, "Do not contact her." That was my mom's handwriting. I knew it instantly. The rage came in slow, thick, heavy, cold. Mom showed up on my front porch a week later, drunk, red-faced, mascara streaking. "You sued your own family," she slurred. "You think Grandma would want this? I didn't even open the screen door." "She would have wanted peace," I said, "but she got vultures instead. She was crazy, Ellie. She forgot things. She told me to take that money." "No," I said. "She told you to take care of me. She screamed something, called me ungrateful, said I was a bitter, barren woman with no life, that she should have let me stay in foster care after the divorce. That's when I saw it. For the first time, truly saw it. This woman wasn't broken. She was empty. A husk filled with bitterness and rot. There was no apology coming, no redemption, no shared grief. So I shut the door. Behind the scenes, Talbot moved fast. With my help and Jess's testimony, he built a case so damning that the sheriff's office opened an investigation. Carol was charged with theft by deception. Ron got slapped with a lawsuit from the bank. And my mom, she wasn't charged, but the IRS came knocking once we exposed the gifts she never reported. They started turning on each other almost immediately. Ron blamed Carol for bad paperwork. Carol claimed she only took money because Rose said she had no use for it. My mom tried to sell a sob story to the local church until the pastor read my letter during a service word for word and reminded everyone of what true repentance looked like. By the end of the month, the family group chat was dead. Jess said they started fighting publicly. Jenny moved out of state and deleted her social media. Carol lost her job at the school district. Ron's boat was repossessed. The house, my house, became my sanctuary. I restored it room by room. New paint, fresh hardwood. Grandma's quilts cleaned and folded again. I turned her sewing room into a small writing nook. I planted hydrangeas along the back fence just like she always wanted, but never had the money to do. I could breathe again. For the first time in years, I could breathe. And when the day came that the sheriff officially closed the investigation, I poured a glass of wine, stood on the porch, and watched the sun set over the oak tree in the yard. They were gone. Every last one of them. And yet, something inside me ached. Not for them, but for me. For the years I lost trying to earn love from people who only saw me as a convenience. But that grief, it was no longer heavy. It had transformed into something stronger, clarity. I knew who I was now, and I would never let anyone take that from me again. 6 months after the lawsuits, I was finally alone. Not just physically, I'd been alone in that house for a while, but emotionally, spiritually. The echoes of their voices, their manipulation, their guilt trips, they were gone. I filled the silence with music, soft jazz in the mornings, old country in the evenings. I lit candles. Grandma used to love vanilla sandalwood lavender. I cooked her recipes from memory and sometimes still caught myself glancing over my shoulder, expecting to hear her rocking in the chair, humming gospel hymns. She wasn't there, but something about the peace felt like she had finally come home. Jess started coming by every Sunday. We'd drink tea and sit on the porch, watching the yard slowly grow back to life. She told me she was planning to go back to school. She'd always wanted to be a social worker, but never thought she was smart enough. Her mom, Carol, used to tell her that. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "You're not just smart enough. You're everything they aren't." I offered to pay her first semester. She refused at first, said she couldn't take my money. "It's not a handout," I told her. "It's restoration." She cried. I cried. It felt like healing. Then one night in late spring, I got a message from my mom. Not a call, not a letter, just a single pathetic Facebook message at 11:52 p.m. "Hope you're happy now. Your father's dead. Maybe you can finally rest." I didn't reply. I sat with it for a long time. My father, William, was gone. I had exchanged 3 letters with him before he passed. They were awkward, but honest. He said he was proud of me, that he wished things had been different, that he hoped I could live with peace, even if he wouldn't live to see it. That was all I needed. Not closure, not absolution truth. I blocked my mother that night, blocked Ron, blocked Carol, blocked Jenny. I never heard from any of them again. That summer, I hosted a small garden party in Grandma's backyard. Jess came, a few old friends from high school, even Darlene stopped by. We drank sweet tea, laughed about how bad we used to dance at prom, and watched the fireflies blink over the hydrangeas I planted. No drama, no manipulation, no walking on eggshells. Just air. Clean, wide open air. A few weeks later, Jess's little sister, only 16, ran away from home. Carol had started drinking heavily after losing her job. The house was full of yelling, threats, slaps. Jess brought her to my place without asking. She was shaking barefoot wearing a hoodie in July. I opened the door wide. "You're safe here," I said. "You're always safe here." And in that moment, I realized what this house had become. Not a monument to grief. Not a battlefield for revenge, but a sanctuary. A place for girls like me, like Jess, like her sister. A place where lies ended and truth had room to grow. My old family never came back. Not with apologies, not with lawsuits, not even to Snoop. I heard Ron moved in with his girlfriend in Alabama. Carol started a GoFundMe that no one donated to. My mom, I don't know. I don't care. I've stopped checking. Sometimes I still drive past their old homes, shuttered windows, cracked porches, sagging gutters. I don't feel pity. I don't feel hate. I feel distance. And that's the best gift I've ever given myself. The house is mine now, not just on paper, in spirit, in history, in purpose. I don't keep many photos of my old family anymore, but I keep one of Grandma sitting in her rocker, a soft smile on her face, knitting in hand, sunlight spilling across her lap. She deserved better. I did too. But we made do. We made it through. I never went back. When Jess's sister turned 18, she left that house and moved in with me. I welcomed her like I was saving my younger self. As for the rest of them, they're still out there, trapped in the darkness they created. I just turned on the porch light, shut the door behind me, and never looked back.